that we cannot process what we don't let in. Attention has been known to be the gateway to cognition. It is thought to directly impact learning at school. Achievement is related to it, and not only in attention deficit hyperactivity syndrome, but probably for the whole population. Attention may mediate other variables, such as social skills as well. And it is also thought to impact our health, happiness, motivation, and well-being. Research with children at school shows that the more distractible you are, the lower are your learning abilities in learning a second language, such as English in this case, or achieving knowledge in math. What we think is going on, and this has been replicated through the last 50 years, is that in order to get access to our sensory information, we need attention. Attention is also vital to transmit the information from sensory perception areas to short-term memory. It is also important for processing the information that was already attained at some point in order to transfer it to long-term memory and to process it in order to achieve novelty and understanding. What do we mean by when we think about attention? Well, in very crude manners, we tend to think of attention as comprising of three main distributed neural networks. One is primarily a norepinephrinic system, and it is intended to enable us to attain and maintain sensitivity to stimuli that is incoming. The second one is an orienting system. It is mediated by acetylcholine, and its intention is really to help us select the salient cue, the one cue from our dynamic environment to which we should attend. And the third one is really what enables us to learn. It is the network that enables us to continue and focus, as we are all doing today from this morning, on what is of interest to us. And we're doing that despite all the distractors and the dynamic of changes of stimuli in our own environment. This network is driven very much by the dopaminergic system. What we know little about is how do early attention skills, and those that are available to the young baby, how do these early attention skills predict our ability to then focus attention in order to learn? And what are the links between the neural networks moderating attention capacities, infant attention, and how these predict learning? So the aim of my short presentation today is to zero in on linking infant neuroscience and learning behavior. And it is not a simple task, as you may imagine. So I will share with you some insight that we recently summarized in a meta-analysis, and also some work in progress looking at prospective longitudinal data. It has been known that the attentional networks develop over time. What you see here in the depiction on the left is a young baby held by her adult mother. They both were responding to the cue of the photographer saying, "Hey, look at me, it's a special day for me. I'm graduating right now." The mother is attending to the vital cue, even though the environment is very hectic around them. But the baby takes time to do that because there is something really interesting there, the grandma. who is chatting to her as well. So what you can see is the difference between the orienting system that is acting in the baby right now as compared to the focused attention mom who is holding on her face and posture to the photographer despite her interest to see what is interesting for her baby. Longitudinal data has shown that the orienting system depicted here in the light red curve is developing early through the first year of life. But the more advanced executive attention, the one that enables focusing on what is important, even though other interesting things are happening, takes longer to develop. And it starts later to emerge. There is a little slope during the pre-K years. Then there is a rise in its appearance enabled by the maturation of the prefrontal network, and then a continued very long progression of developmental process. What is happening at the beginning when the baby is just born? Earlier work that we have been doing suggests that first, arousal is the network that determines where we will look at. If we try and teach young babies that were just born, and this baby is a neonate that is 34 weeks gestation, that is, he wasn't intended to be born yet, really. She is already attending quite well to the salient stimuli we are showing her. But what she will be concentrating on is really dependent on her arousal. If we show her the information before she's fed, she will not be able to look at a new stimuli. She will look at the ones she has already seen before. If we'll do the same test with the same baby after she's fed, she is now able to look at a novel stimulus. The same will occur when she'll be 1 month old, and a lesser difference accounted by arousal will become evident at 4 months. At this age, she will be able to make an effort to look at the novel stimuli both before and after feeding, but it will be really hard for her to reach a homeostasis between her arousal and the need to orient to external stimuli as well as internal ones. Does it matter what environment we live in order to develop our attention networks? We all think about our environment as being an overly burdened one. It has too much going on, too many changes, too much unpredictability. How is it for young infants who are born preterm? Their neural networks are really immature to handle all this. How do they matter? How do they manage all this? Is the change in environment affecting the development of their attention networks? A recent paper we summarized a couple of months ago in JAMA Network Open, we reviewed the research on attention development from birth to 2 years of age occurring in the last 50 years. It's a lot of work that we all scientists in our field have been doing. We've covered hundreds and hundreds of papers, close to 2,000 of them, rated them, and analyzed them. The data that emerged showed that at first, and you can see here data with neonates, at first, it seems that preterm babies enjoy the effect of early stimulation to outside world. Actually, they show an advantage to following items that they see. And this advantage is evident and strong compared to infants who are born at term or are mature when they first encounter the environment. However, very soon after the early advantage is seen, we see a very marked deficit in the abilities of infants who are born preterm to follow items. And this deficit then cascades to a difficulty in fixating on items that are of importance in their environment. They take much longer to get there. Deficits are also noted in their ability to understand and be able to focus on what's novel and important, what's new in their environment that is already known. They're also experiencing, importantly for our talk today, a difficulty to focus their attention despite many distractors in their environment. So all in all, the systematic review and meta-analysis, which covered 53 eligible studies, including over 2,000 preterm-born infants and close to 2,000 neonates born at term, show that those who are born preterm have a short advantage in visual following, but this advantage quickly dissipates and cascades into a long-term deficit in attention development, evidently resulting in a deficit in focusing attention in order to learn. How about distractibility? When we test the complexity of the stimuli in their environment and the complexity of the distractors in their environment, if they're just visual or just audio or bimodal or non-existent, we know the relationship between what the baby was able to deal with when they were babies and newborns as compared to what they are now able to do when they're a year and a half old. What we see when we look at this relationship of what they did when they were just born to what they are now doing when they're children in preschool, we see that there is a strong relationship between the performances they're showing. And one group is of really interest to us, and you see it marked with the red bar here. This group was showing a too strong focus on novelty in their environment when they were just starting off. They were driven by the external environment. They were novelty seekers in their environment. And at first it was really exciting to the parents and team to see that they're really out there going for what's going on. But as the months went by and they started to develop their other attentional networks, they took longer and longer to get into a focused attention state that is documented here in the two examples. What neural network may account for these processes that we are now seeing? We have been doing quite a bit of work on the maturation of brainstem networks and their maturational state when we're just born. We have been using the auditory evoked response test, the one that is used as a screener very often soon after a baby is born, is not sufficient for the purposes of evaluating the attention network. What we do need to do is a full protocol, a full clinical protocol in order to get to the sensitivity that is needed. To see what are the sites that are active, that are mature enough to convey the stimuli throughout the pathway from the cochlear ganglion through up to the lateral lemniscus and the inferior colliculi. You can do the test in the NICU already, starting from week 31 of the gestation. And very often we can note typical performance depicted here in the blue line as compared to a more prolonged pathway that is depicted here in red. What importantly we note is that infants who were diagnosed at birth with prolonged brainstem evoked responses, even though they hear very, very well, we know that for them, there is a marked deficit at a year and a half when they're 18 months of age in their ability to focus their attention. Moreover, they have a language deficit that they're showing at this age, and this deficit is completely accounted by the ability to focus attention at 18 months. So to sum these data up, an indirect association seems to exist between neonatal brainstem pathways integrity and language development at 18 months. This path is fully mediated by infants' focused attention. It seems that putatively infants' cognitive ability is dependent on neonatal integrity of brainstem pathways as a focal determinant of language internalization and the infant's ability to effortfully focus attention towards the environment. Taken together, it seems that verbal cognition indeed depends upon focused attention. That early orienting to novelty predict the ability to focus attention. But importantly, this capacity is dependent upon the suitability of the environment and the integrity of early developing neural networks. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer your queries and forward and follow up on this by discussing it with you using my email that is presented here.